There we go. Excellent. Ha! Okay. All the tech has finally been organized and we are live. Hi, everyone. I have been thinking and thinking and thinking about this video for so long. YouTube tells me it's been 130 days since I went live on YouTube. I've been live in Facebook since then, but this video has just been really hard to make. Let's talk about growth because we've all seen it happen. We've all seen it happen, right? You start to get up and running and you find somebody you really, really admire and you follow them and you maybe you buy their program or you get into a routine of checking in on what they're doing and how they're doing it. And it's super exciting because they're really saying things and doing things that you were hoping somebody would say and do. And you've been waiting and waiting and finally someone is. And everyone else notices too, right? And so the person's visibility and influence starts to grow. They become either an internet personality or not internet personality, right? This could happen anywhere. And then it happens. And you almost start to brace for it right away, right? You almost start to brace for it as soon as you start to like someone because you're pretty sure your fave is going to become problematic because all your faves are problematic. And so this one is going to too. And you just have to kind of enjoy it while you can because you know it's going to happen. And so you don't get too attached and then it happens. And then you're like, well, yeah, of course it happened. Of course, this person that I liked and admired who was doing this really awesome thing grew to the point where they couldn't do it anymore. And they lost the thing that I liked about them. For me and for a lot of us, I think that thing is integrity, right? And they lose integrity. Something happens and they start to become the thing you didn't want them to be. And they start to market in ways that don't feel right, or they start to talk in ways that don't feel right, or they go back on some of their really important commitments or promises, or they just handle a really difficult public conversation really badly. Right? All of those things can happen. And then they don't make it right. They don't fix it. They don't go back and do it right and recognize they did it wrong, right? And so, or they grow and they're a business owner, right? And they grow and they add people to their team and they make more money. And then all of a sudden something shifts. Something shifts. Right. And if you're in the coaching world like I am, or the personal development world, you've probably seen this happen a bunch of times, right? This is not a new idea. This is not a new concept. This is not a thing that's happening for the first time right now, but it keeps happening. And what that does, in addition to really kind of hampering our faith in humanity, what that does is it undermines our ability to believe in our own ability to grow. It undermines our ability to believe in our own ability to grow. So if you're finding yourself kind of up against some kind of invisible barrier when it comes to your own growth, whether it's personal growth, whether it's visibility growth, whether it's business growth, check, look around, check to see, check. Is somebody in your environment doing this right now? Or have they done it recently? Has somebody, notice who in your environment, I'm still working on my ableist language, notice who in your environment is going through this right now where they're growing really fast, maybe faster than they planned, faster than they were ready for, and you're noticing a values shift, you're noticing an ethics shift, you're noticing a difference in the quality of their interactions, and you don't know why, but it feels off, right? It feels like not the thing you showed up for, not the thing that attracted you, not the thing that you signed up for, and so you're starting to back off. And when you notice this, when you're observing this, notice whether what you're feeling is this person shouldn't be so visible, because that's an interesting piece of information, but that's not actually a mistake that this person is making. Or if what you're seeing instead, what you're experiencing instead is this person should be acting in a different way because this new way they're acting is not in alignment with the ethics they professed. This new way of acting is not in alignment with what they said they were doing. This new way of acting, it feels wrong. And your gut is probably going to be the first one on the scene, and then the rest of you will catch up afterwards. Your intellect will spend a bunch of time trying to understand what's happening, and your heart will want to give them the best of, sort of the, your heart will want to believe the best of them, and your gut will be going, this doesn't feel right. This does not feel right. I can't tell you how many times I've been working with somebody as a student of some kind, right? I'm learning from them. And they start to grow and the shift happens. And I'm like, crap. But it happens. And I can't stay in their universe in the same way anymore. And sometimes I'll hang around the outside edges and see if they come back. And sometimes they do. And sometimes I just got to get out of there. But it makes me really hesitant about becoming more visible. It makes me really hesitant about growing. It makes me really hesitant about getting to the point where I can hire a team. It makes me really hesitant about doing all the things that they're doing because I don't want to be that person, right? I don't want to become that. And I think that's not just me. A lot of us don't want to become that. We want visibility for our ideas. We want reach for what we're doing. We want people to hear us and see us and understand us and receive what we're doing. And we want people to be changed by who and how we are. We want that. And we have to acknowledge that we are going to be changed by changing people, and we are going to be changed by becoming bigger in that way. And if we're going to grow like that, we have got to make sure that we don't become that thing that we're scared of, right? I mean, I have seen people that I thought the world of transform themselves into the boss from Devil Wears Prada in like 6 months. And that's terrifying. I have known people to go from being absolutely committedly in integrity about everything they were doing to somebody I wouldn't even want to read an essay by, because of the way it becomes clear that they're treating people, because of the way that it becomes clear that they're making their decisions, because of the way that they're marketing to me. Not that they are marketing to me. I'm happy to be marketed to. Often I sign up to be marketed to. But when I am approached in a way that feels off, I'm out of there. And so what do we do? What do we do? How do we grow? And this is part of the question that I'm really trying to address with the Crow's Nest. So the Crow's Nest is 2 3-month programs that are related but separate. And in the fall, we're going to be doing the first of these 2 3-month programs. What we're going to be doing is gathering in community, because it is increasingly my belief that the way that we don't turn into the thing that we were trying to escape or overcome, or the thing that hurt us the most, because that thing, right, when something hurts us a lot, the structures and methods and ideas get embedded in our brains. They get woven into our neuronal pathways. And that happens along with our responses, right? Along with whatever responses we had, if it was traumatic, along with our trauma responses, like it all gets woven in there together. But those patterns and those ways of behaving get in there, and they get stuck in there. And unless we go out and pursue something different, that's what we've got, is those ideas and those feelings and those ways of being. And so it becomes necessary for us to create solid contextual spaces that we can be in, where we can remind ourselves and remind others and be reminded that we have principles, that we have ideals that we are committed to, that we are going to stay true to, even though we are growing, even though we are changing, even though we might be refiguring our relationship to things like money or power. We might be deciding that we really do want power because we need power in order to make the world the way we want it. But we don't want to have the experience of receiving power become a thing that turns us into the very institution, which is the potentially only model of power we have in our heads. And this is even more true now than it used to be. I'm preaching on Sunday about I'm preaching on Sunday about the ways in which we don't want villains starring in our imaginations. And this is one of those times when we need a different model, and we need active engagement in a different model so that we continue to behave with that different model, so we continue to do what that different model offers us, so that we don't slide into the thing that is most contextually expected in our cultural space. In fact, what we're doing is we are changing our cultural space, our immediate cultural milieu, so that what is most expected is what we would like to have be the default in our world, and not what is the global default right now. So that's why the Crow's Nest is a group program, and I talk about that a lot. The thing that we are doing in the Crow's Nest is we are examining what we are doing. We are keeping the parts that are awesome. We are discarding the parts that are not. That's the import, the fall season. Crow's Nest is all about sorting through what we've got, discarding what's not useful, taking up what is useful. And I want to say just one thing, because I keep getting distracted by thinking about it, which is that while this is originally modeled on the Northern Hemisphere seasonal shifts, because that's where I live, I do want to note that I thought really hard about flipping it and doing the decomposition in the spring and the creation, which is what we're going to do in the spring, in the fall. I thought about doing that. So if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, it can still make a lot of sense to do the decomposition in the spring and then the creation in the fall, so that you come into January with something ready to roll. And one of the other things that I love about the way that this program is going to go is that it includes implementation, right? It's very spacious. There are times when we meet more and there are times when we meet less. It's not an every single week thing. And it's very spacious. So you're going to have time to create and think and cogitate, which is something that we often don't make time for. And in one of my own collegial groups right now, we've been talking a lot about how we need that downtime, we need that fallow time in order to really understand what we're doing and integrate what we're doing in our businesses. And then there's implementation time. The implementation time is built into this program. And the space to get feedback about your implementation is built into this program. So do not think that I'm just going to leave you hanging high and dry with a bunch of great ideas that you're not going to actually do anything with, because your life's going to get busy. If you stay with the program, you got to stay with it, right? But if you stay with the program, you're going to have the time and the space to do implementation. And I created this because of phenomena like this villainous growth habit that seems to be rampant in small businesses and large businesses, right? Like Google used to say, don't be evil. Guess what? They removed that. It just disappeared from their marketing at some point. Facebook probably didn't start out quite as evil as it is, although its origins are a little sketchier, right? There are all kinds of things that started out fairly innocently and became evil as they grew. And so we have this association not just with power as evil or power as corrupting, but also growth itself as corrupting. And growth and power, of course, are related. But especially in the business world, especially in the personal growth and development, but also in other kinds of entrepreneurship, we have this association that if you get too big, then you're going to become evil. And some of that probably has to do with what your funding sources are as you grow. One of the most delightful success stories I know of right now in the startup world is a small company that has tried repeatedly to get funding and can't seem to get funding from anywhere. And I would argue it's because there's too much there's this ethical cloud around this company, and they're wonderful, and I really support and believe in them. And I think that funders are looking at them and saying, you're not malleable enough. You're too well developed, and you're too clear about what you do for us to be able to influence you in the ways that we would want to influence you in order to make you more profitable, in order to make us a profit on our investment in you. So no, you just go keep self-funding. That's fine. It's really hard on the founder, but I think that it's related to his commitment to ethics. So I want to see, I would love to see the founding world. I would love to have the founding world and the funding world get together on ethics. I would love to have funders think that ethics are actually super important in the way that a company gets run, not just diversity, although that's, the flavor of the month, but everything, like a global ethical approach to everything. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think if it did, it would really change the face of business in this country. But meanwhile, everybody who's a founder and everybody who's a leader of a team has the opportunity to become a piece of that change. You have the opportunity to take the organization that you are a leader in and make it more ethical, and make sure that it stays ethical, and move continually toward ethics, because it's not a one-shot deal, right? Ethics are a thing you do, not a thing you have or are. So I want to create a space where ethical founders can be together, can support one another, can encourage one another, and can use that space to make concrete, tangible progress toward a more ethical organization. And my idea is that this happens over and over, that in the fall you do this, in the spring you do the creation part. How am I going to gather power? What am I going to create? That's the spring program. I'll be talking about that more later. And then you do it again. In the fall, you examine what you've been doing that needs an overhaul. In the spring, you examine what you need to create. In the fall, it's an overhaul. In the spring, it's creation. And so it's this maintenance. It's like bringing your business in for, every 6 months. It needs a checkup. It needs maintenance. It needs clearing. And that way you don't end up with a backlog, and you don't end up doing things terribly, and you don't end up in a really bad political situation or a really bad PR situation, or just feeling really bad about yourself even though your company is thriving. Like, none of those things are good, and all of those things sometimes happen. And instead of that, wouldn't it be great to take the time to reevaluate? Take the time to reevaluate, take the space to reevaluate. So if that sounds good to you, come join me. Courses.intensivesinstitute.com, and look for the Crow's Nest Import. It's the Crow's Nest Part 1. You can sign up. You can reach me. You can comment here or on Facebook if you're in contact with me on Facebook, or on Twitter. My handle is Leela Sinha. Come find me. Ask me questions about my program. I would be delighted to answer them, to get on the phone with you, to get you hooked up with this, because I don't want any more villains. I'm tired of villains. We have way too many of them as it is. What I want is people with power and ethics. I'm going to be talking more about nobility in the future. That's coming really soon. But meanwhile, power and ethics. I hope to see you soon. Take care.